Sure. I'm going to go through your pictures and give you some of my thoughts about them. I mean, first of all, I love that you're doing this in your assignment. I mean, in your apartment, and that you're making this happen. It looks like a studio, and it's definitely looks professional, and it's technically and aesthetically really tight. And I think you should really be really proud of that. I think you've got some skills that you can really take to the next level. So my main comments, and we'll talk about the aesthetics and what's happening, and your approach to this assignment of photographing the same person a couple days. My main comments are, now what? And that might sound a little harsh, but I think, what do you want to do with these pictures? Like, you're making them look like something interesting. I think it definitely has a lot of potential kind of in the advertising and editorial area. And some are stronger than others and more interesting than others. So let me go through and tell you what I think is happening with each one, and where you might go with that to take it to the next level, which is how do we make these pictures have more, how do you get to the next level of conceptual depth? And really, what is Christopher interested in? So if this were an in-person critique, what I'd be asking you is, which pictures are the most meaningful for you? And, which did you make the most discovery in? Which were the pictures where you feel like you looked at them and they ended up having more to them, or you learned something, or that would be the first thing that I would suggest you do with these pictures, because you can make a good picture and you can make it look interesting and cool. And then what do you want to do with it? And, again, if you want to do commercial work or advertising work, that's one thing, and there's a lot of potential. But I still think like having a conceptual and kind of depth to it will help you in those areas as well. And I, of course, being an art professor, am going to push you towards, the work having more than the surface meaning. So again, a couple have theatricality to them. Of course, these kinds of pictures. This to me feels a little bit more like descriptive portraiture. I mean, it could be used. She's playing the guitar. A guitar portrait. This one actually technically might not be quite as strong, although I think it's got the dust on the guitar actually makes this one maybe a bit more interesting than some of the other ones, because you've got, this expectation, and then you've got like this super dusty guitar, which brings up some interesting ideas. Also, the fact that she's soft in that is interesting to me. This one, I think, is the expression is pretty striking, that she's giving. I think that I'm really interested in her face, and it starts to go to another level for me. In the end, I think it's a relatively standard, well done portrait. I'd be interested to know, do you attach it to other people? Could you photograph other people this way? Could we have a whole series of that? Obviously you have some kind of connection to her, and I think you could do a couple of things. I think, one, you could go in a direction where you photograph other people in a similar way and start to add dimensionality that way, or you could photograph her in a way where there's less performance, or even more performance. I mean, I think there's a lot of dimensions. I think right at this point right now that it feels like you're in this one. You're in this place and it needs to go some direction somewhere else. I mean, again, this is a nice portrait, really nice portrait, and then this one has this whole other level of performance and theatricality, and it looks like something that's from a play, right? A shot from a play, the pictures that you see out front of a play, or it's got this cinematic, it's partly her makeup, it's partly the lighting, it's partly her expression. So I could see that also being a whole way you take it. I mean, you make everything into a performance. The next assignment after the landscape assignment is staged. It's staged or still life. And I could see you taking this and making vignettes and making it. But this feels to me, in terms of a portrait, this feels much more like a performance. Anyway, so interesting. There was a question on Yellow Dig recently about makeup and performing, and that is every time you have makeup on. I don't remember if you were involved with it, but that becomes a mask. But this is something to think about. And some of these pictures I feel like they're more her, and some are more performing. But that is one of my favorite pictures. Yeah, this one feels like more her, or her performing someone who's not performing. It's getting rather complicated. But this one has this kind of, it's almost like a little bit Cindy Sherman-esque. She looks a little bit scared and looking out the window. This could be part of a narrative. This could be something else, but this is like a really different kind of picture from the other ones. And I'm really interested in it. I could see that. I could see you going in another direction where she's like, this is more like a narrative a photo narrative where these things are happening to her, whereas this is kind of this like slick theatrical, I don't know, narrative. Another one, maybe another, kind of almost like album cover portrait that this is doing. And yeah, this one is like the other one, but not as interesting to me. I think the color is a little bit, it's not pulling me in the way that that this one does for some reason. So this one is one of the ones I am the most compelled by. I would love to see you take this in further direction of the more kind of staged theatrical. And then this one I could see, I still feel like she's a performer. It's interesting. Maybe she is. This to me less interesting because it's a nice portrait. You did a good job, but I would like to push you to go further. And then again, this one, I could see this being like, this in some ways could be like a campaign for like young people. If you look up the work of Ryan McGinley, you might be interested in this kind of idea of young people culture. That sounds kind of inarticulate. Again, this one with the dust is kind of interesting, yeah. So anyway, there's just a little bit of feedback. Thinking about it, think about what you are the most interested in. What of these pictures make you want to go and take the next one? So again, technically and aesthetically, really accomplished. Now take it to the next level.